I would like to, of course, recognize my friends that are in the front row here, including Helen Clark from UNDP, Paul Pullman, my dear friend Yolanda Kakabatse, my dear friend Antonio Benjamin. All of these are very familiar faces to me, so I thought I should welcome them. I would like to welcome you all to this event, and at the outset, I also would like to take this opportunity to thank the government of Peru for their excellent hospitality and for hosting us here in this beautiful city of Lima. For UNEP, it has been a great pleasure to coordinate and work with so many renowned institutions and entities that have been involved in the Global Landscapes Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you had a good rest last night following an exciting first day of the Global Landscapes Forum. Personally, I was woken up by an early morning call from my elder sister called Amina. Amina is a farmer in her native village in West Africa. While she heard about the Lima conference, Amina's call was not to inquiry about the status of the climate negotiations. Instead, she wanted to share with me some news. They are, once again, affected not by floods, as was the case last year, but by a severe drought. Food production, she said, has gone down compared to average. Fishermen find it very hard to catch fish. Herders have to go hundreds of kilometers southwards before they find the grass to feed their animals. Unexpectedly, some children will have to drop out of schools. Families will again be dislocated, and women, often young and inexperienced, will be left as heads of households. Luckily, Amina has a couple of hectares of irrigated land where she practices some gardening, essentially for self-consumption. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a cultivated planet. Human-driven changes to the Earth's system are now so great, rapid, and distinct that they may even characterize an entirely new geological time, the Anthropocene. Our influence as humans extends to the farthest corners of the globe, making it clearer than ever that humans are part of nature and that humans are in fact a dominant force in nature. In this context, it is essential that we understand our natural surroundings from a perspective of our own role and responsibility. This is why the term landscape is important. A landscape does not have a simple one-size-fits-all definition. A landscape means different things to different people. But the common feature of landscapes everywhere, and the reason why we believe the term is highly useful for policy debate, is that it indicates the key role of humans in shaping the land. A landscape is defined by the needs and responsibilities of the people living in it. Adopting a landscape approach in policy making can help us to better analyze and assess the trade-offs between different forms of land use and to make decisions that are just and environmentally, economically sound. To give one example, in Kenya, where I live, the tea growers at the foot of Mau Forest benefit from the continuous flow of clean water from the forest catchment area further up the hill. And any decision to clear forests on the hillsides will have an impact on the stakeholders further down in the valley. The landscapes in this example is the entire mountain ecosystem, and land use decisions in one area have impacts on the livelihoods and well-being in another area. Understanding these linkages across the landscapes and designing policy responses that ensure sustainability development is a defining issue of our time. New policy responses are needed to ensure water, food and energy security, biodiversity and climate change mitigation and adaptation. You, the people in this room, are the ambassadors and champions for the new and more holistic policy responses that are required. Landscapes are also heavily influenced by policy decisions in other locations. Urban centers are usually at the forefront of policymakers' minds. The landscapes where most of our food is grown and which supply most of cities' everyday needs are often only an afterthought in national policy debates. However, it is possible to design national policy and incentive systems in a way that is not only socially just, but also reduces ecological risks. Development policies can be resource efficient and low in carbon emissions, while at the same time building natural capital that characterize functioning and productive landscapes. In other words, you can have your cake and eat it too. Indeed, the transition to a green economy is in full swing globally. It might not always be visible, but the investment decisions into energy, transport, infrastructures, and cities, and in the way we produce food are all evolving rapidly. Agriculture and forestry can be all on the forefront of the green economy transition because they are inherently green, and they have a large potential for reducing current greenhouse gas emissions and to rebuild essential natural capital in every country. The Global Landscapes Forum 2014 can provide us with ideas, inspirations, and knowledge we need to fight for this change and for the future we want, a world which perhaps respects human dignity and where Amina, her children, and grandchildren live in harmony with nature. A safer world where Amina and her children are able to build more resilient landscapes. Thank you very much. I now would like to introduce our moderator, the moderator for this panel, Mrs. Simran Sethi. Welcome to the floor.